The date is May 9th, 2019. The time is 3 p.m. Present in the Internal Affairs Division office are Brandon Lundgren, Mick Boyd, Sergeant Ryan Bullard, and myself, Detective Lilia Alonso. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct an interview of Brandon Lundgren, who is an employee with the Sacramento Police Department in the capacity of police officer. This is an administrative investigation on the charges of neglect of duty and improper tactics involving Jared Robinette and Terrence Mercadale. This is an administrative investigation only on these charges. Do you understand that?
I do.
However, since the allegations indicated that a crime may have been committed, I am advising you that you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you in court. You have the right to the presence of an attorney before and during any questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you free of charge before any questioning if you want. Do you understand each of these rights that I have explained to you?
I do.
Having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us now?
No.
Although you have a right to remain silent and not to incriminate yourself, your silence can be deemed insubordination and result in administrative discipline. Do you understand that based upon the authority vested in me by the Chief of Police, I am ordering you to answer all of our questions?
I understand.
Any statement made under compulsion of a threat of discipline cannot be used against you in a later criminal proceeding. However, if you do not answer our questions truthfully and fully, a charge of insubordination may be imposed, which could result in discipline up to and including termination. Do you understand this is only an administrative investigation?
I do.
Do you understand the allegations?
I do.
Do you understand that I am ordering you to answer our questions, and that if you do not answer them truthfully and fully, it could result in disciplinary action up to and including termination?
I do.
For the record, please state and spell your name.
Brandon Lundgren, Brandon, Lundgren, Lundgren.
Did you graduate from the Sacramento Police Academy?
No.
Okay. Which academy did you graduate from?
Graduated from the Yuba College Police Academy.
And when did you graduate from there?
In 2016, June 6th, I believe.
Okay. Do you have any prior law enforcement experience?
I was a reserve deputy for approximately 6 months with the Yuba County Sheriff's Department.
Yuba County Sheriff's
Yuba
Department?
County.
What is your current assignment and shift?
Patrol, Sector 5.
Okay. How long have you been in your current assignment?
Approximately 3 years. 3 years will be in June.
What was your assignment and shift in March 2018?
I was working as, I believe, 2 Charles 5-5 in Sector 5 swing shift.
Have you had any kind of specialized training or assignment with the Sacramento Police Department?
No.
Prior to this interview, I provided you and your representative with your body-worn camera footage from March 18, 2018 relating to CAD call 18-82449, a video recording of your interview with homicide detectives on March 29, 2018 relating to SPD case 18-82449, your statement and observations relating to the SPD case 18-82449, a CAD call printout for call 18-82449, an audio recording of radio traffic relating to SPD CAD 18-82449, a transcription of the radio traffic relating to SPD CAD 18-82449, an aerial photo of 29th Street from SPD case 18-82449, a copy of your post-training record, a 2018 SPD CPT First Aid CPR Update Course Outline, General Order 522.02, revision date 5/16/2017, and General Order 525.07, revision date 4/26/2017. Have you had a chance to review these?
I have.
For the record, these general orders were the current policies in place on March 18th of 2018. We are here to conduct an administrative interview with you regarding SPD case 18-82449, an officer-involved shooting which you were involved in on March 18, 2018. Prior to our interview here, have you read or reviewed any materials pertaining to this case 18-82449, such as reports, press releases, statements, videos?
Yes.
What would those entail?
I have read my report that I wrote the night of. Through the course of this investigation, I have seen news media in regards to this. I've watched videos published online of the helicopter's view of this and other body-worn cameras that have been released.
Have you received training in emergency first aid and CPR?
I have.
And specifically, what kind of training?
I've had first aid and CPR.
With the Sacramento Police Department?
Yes.
And when was that?
That was on 1/29/18.
Referring to your observations written by you in relation to this case, did you review any video, whether body-worn camera or any other kind of video, prior to writing and submitting your observations?
No.
And then referring to your statement that you gave to homicide investigators on March 29, 2018, do you remember what videos you were allowed to watch prior to the interview with homicide detectives?
I don't recall.
What type of equipment did you carry with you on the date of the shooting, March 18th, 2018?
In reference to every piece of equipment on me?
Of whatever you can recall that you think would be...
The night in question, the equipment I had on my body was, I had my firearm, I had extra magazines, I had my flashlight, my baton, I had my taser, my radio, my ballistic vest, all my standard issue equipment I had on me that night.
Did you have your department issued body-worn camera equipped?
I did.
And to your knowledge, was all of your equipment, including your body-worn camera, functioning properly at the beginning of your shift on March 18th of 2018?
Yes, it was.
Were you on duty March 18, 2018 at 9:28 p.m.?
I was.
What was your identifier?
I believe it was 2 Charles 55. It was 2 Charles 55.
Okay. Did you have a partner you were working with?
I did.
And who was that?
That was Thomas McLean.
Okay. Were you in a fully marked SPD patrol vehicle equipped with emergency lights?
We were.
Were you in full SPD uniform?
I was.
And your partner, Officer McLean, was he in full SPD uniform as well at the time?
He was.
On March 18, 2018, 21:28 hours, did you respond to a call for service in the area of 29th Street regarding a car cloud or car burglary which had resulted in an officer-involved shooting?
Yes, I did.
Did you respond code 3?
Yes, we did.
Where did you respond from?
We responded from Delta Shore Circle.
Can you summarize the information about the call that you knew at the time that you were responding?
At the time, we were listening to radio traffic of 2 officers responding to the area of 29th Street in regards to a subject breaking car windows. The sheriff's helicopter Star got over her head and located a subject in the backyard on 29th. As officers arrived on scene, Star updated them, advising them that he was jumping fences, heading southbound through yards. Star advised them that he had just broken a back window into a residence and then continued southbound over a fence. At that time, we heard an update from Star that shots had been fired, and then we heard over the radio the officers putting out shots fired. We then responded from Delta Shores Circle, code 3, to 29th Street.
So as you touched on earlier, an SSD air unit Star responded to this call as well, correct?
Correct.
To your knowledge, was Star on scene for this call prior to your arrival?
Yes, they were.
Can you describe some of the things that you were considering or thinking about during your response to this call?
Shots just were fired, so I was concerned with the officers on scene and their safety and the well-being. I was concerned about the individual they just got into a firefight with. I was concerned, thinking if the subject was still armed and if he was, still in the fight. We were concerned about, getting there safely and rendering aid to whoever we needed to render aid to, if that meant engaging in a firefight or helping with first aid, scene security, and the following investigation.
The CAD call indicates that at 21:33 hours, you and Officer McLean arrived on scene for this call. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did you actually respond to 29th Street as opposed to?
We responded and parked our vehicle approximately 2 houses north of the actual residence where shots were fired.
Okay. 29th Street was the actual location of the officer-involved shooting, to your knowledge. Let me rephrase it. Do you recall how you got directed or what led you to 29th Street?
When I arrived on scene, there were other officers on scene, and I started asking where my partners were. They directed me southbound. I moved approximately 2 residents southbound, came across another officer, asked where my partners were. They directed me to the backyard of
29th Street was the original CAD call location.
So not that address. Was where they directed me to.
Okay. And to your knowledge, an officer-involved shooting had occurred at this location?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're going to refer to your body-worn camera footage here. Let me try and get to the very beginning here. These are all really tricky. Yeah, we'll just do that. All right. So, does this appear to be your body-worn camera footage?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so we'll review it here, and it has date and time stamp labeled as 2018-03-19, TTOM 04:28:18Z zebra for Zulu time. So we will fast forward here just a little bit. So we're pausing here at 04:32:04. This is when you arrived on scene in the area, is this correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, in translating to Pacific Standard Time as opposed to Zulu time, this would estimate to be roughly 21:32 hours. Does that sound accurate for Pacific Standard Time?
Yes, that's very close.
Okay.
They already cleared? You guys know the address of this check?
So we're pausing at 04:32:23. It sounds like an officer says. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And to your recollection, would this mean 29th Street where officers Robinette and Mercadal were presumably at?
Yes.
Where is he? Robinette's this way?
Yeah, they're in the backyard.
Where's Robinette?
They're back there.
So at 04:32:52, you appear to make contact with an officer. Do you recall which officer that was that you made contact?
Trujillo.
Okay. And this is in front of 29th Street. And you ask, where's Robinette? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Trujillo replies, they're back there, and indicating in a western direction towards the backyard of this property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And at this point, then you proceed west towards the backyard of 29th Street along the north side of the property. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
So 043306, an officer is heard saying, is it rescue mask? Is that correct?
Rescue mask.
And sounds like someone mentioned CPR. Is that correct? Could you hear that at all?
I can hear rescue mask.
Okay. And then at that point, it looks like an officer, after someone says that, an officer goes back towards the front of the property. Could you tell which officer that was?
Officer Trujillo.
Okay. And then Officer Trujillo goes back towards the front of 29th Street.
And she says that she's going to go get a rescue mask.
All right, we got somebody getting rescue mask. They get back there? No, we need a...
043318, you say, okay, we got someone getting a rescue mask, they good back there, and then someone replies, no, we need a, can you tell who said that or which officer said that?
I believe it's Officer Mercadal.
Okay. And which officers are walking back towards the front of the property, of what you can remember from that or what you could see?
Right now, it's Officer Mercadal and Officer Robinette.
Okay, 043338, you appear to join Officer Robinette and Mercadal on the west sidewalk of 29th Street, near 29th Street, and someone says, mute. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you recall which officer said that?
I believe it was me.
Okay. And at the time, do you recall the reason why you had asked that or said that at the time?
I was going to ask them I asked them if they were okay, if they were injured. And then they responded, yeah, we're okay. And then I turned around and walked away from him.
And to your knowledge at this point, officers Robinette and Mercadal had just been involved in a shooting, correct?
I didn't at that time know if it was one or both. I just knew that they were the ones responding to the scene.
Okay. And at this point here, so 0433, it says 39, you mute your body-worn camera. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll start with 043353. Officer Robinette appears to point towards the backyard of 29th Street, and then you appear to run back towards the backyard. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So referring to page 2 and 3 of your statement to homicide detectives, and it should be highlighted. You explained the reason for muting your body-worn camera at the time was to have a personal conversation with Robinette and Mercadal, and that you were checking on their welfare. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And on page 3 of your statement, you said, I don't remember, I think I might have said, where is he? And they pointed to the backyard. Then I turned to go to the backyard, and I think Officer Robinette said, we're on ice. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Or at this point here in your statement, were you referencing here what was said when Robinette is seen on your video here pointing towards the backyard?
Yeah, as far as I remember, that's correct.
Okay. Can you explain what that meant, what Officer Robinette said, we're on ice, that in context at all, what that?
The way that I understood it and took it was they were just involved in something that they needed to separate themselves from and not talk to anyone. Being on ice, just being kind of put alone at the moment, to not talk about it, that's kind of how I took it.
And meaning that Officers Robinette and Mercadal were on ice, so to speak, to not talk about it. Is that correct?
That's how I took it.
Okay. And to clarify, when you said, I might have said, where is he? Are you referring to where is the suspect who was shot?
Yes.
And so was the reason for your going into the backyard, was it to assist in treating the suspect if possible?
Yes, it was.
So 0434 and 00, you unmute or reactivate the audio on your body-worn camera. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what's the reason for you reactivating the audio at that point?
My private conversation regarding safety was over, and I was reactivating my audio to continue in my investigation.
So at 0434 and 15 seconds, you appear to contact officers Trujillo and Taylor in the backyard. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you describe what Officer Taylor appeared to be doing at this point?
He was performing chest compressions.
This would be like CPR, chest compression?
Yes.
Can you hear what Officer Trujillo asks or says right there?
I believe she says something along the lines of, "Is he breathing?"
You want to trade off compressions?
So 0434-24, you ask, you want to trade off compressions, is that correct?
That's correct.
And Officer Taylor replies, "I'm good." Is that correct?
That's correct.
Just to clarify something on page 1 of your observations. After writing that you had arrived on scene at 29th Street, you wrote, "I located one of the members, Gang 57, in parentheses, Taylor, who advised me that they were in the backyard. I made my way to the backyard and located the second member of Gang 57, in parentheses, Trujillo, who was already performing chest compressions on a male subject." Is that correct of what you wrote there?
That is what I wrote.
So after reviewing your initial portion of your body-worn camera footage here, it appeared that you actually contacted Officer Trujillo in front of the residence first as opposed to Taylor, and then located Taylor in the backyard, who began chest compressions as opposed to Trujillo. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So just a mix of officers on it from your observations to who was doing chest compressions and who referred you to the back. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then can you explain what you mean by trade-off compressions?
When giving chest compressions, it can be very tiresome, and so I want to make sure that he wasn't worn out and can still perform chest compressions.
You want to trade off compressions?
You take your breath for a second, like, you've got gloves on already. Can you put that on his face, please?
0434-29, can you explain what happens right here after you ask about trading off compressions? Officer Trujillo motions towards you. What is she asking you to do you recall right here?
She hands me a rescue mask for CPR purposes and asks me to start giving breaths.
Okay. Do you recall her mentioning anything about you having gloves on already?
Yes.
And did Officer Trujillo ask you to put the rescue mask on the suspect's face? Do you recall it? I can replay it if you want to hear.
Yeah, would you?
You take your breath for a second, like, you've got gloves on already. Can you put that on his face, please?
Yes, she does.
Okay, she asked you to put the mask on the suspect's face?
Yes.
Okay. And Officer Trujillo actually gives you her rescue mask, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Back up just a bit. So 0434 and 30 seconds, it looks like you're actually putting the rescue mask on the subject's face, is that correct?
That's correct.
It's kind of dark. And for the record, what is a resuscitation or rescue mask?
It's a mask that you place over the individual's mouth and nose. Creates a seal. It also prevents the one giving breaths if there's any vomiting or fluids coming back out of the individual's mouth. It won't get into the one giving breath's mouth, and it assists with delivering air to their airway.
Good?
So 043444, Officer Taylor appears to pause, and then you ask good, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then you appear to give rescue breaths to the suspect, is that correct?
That's correct.
Would it be one, would it be two? What would you typically do for rescue breaths?
Typically, you give 2 at a time.
And did you notice during these breaths at all that you gave to the suspect if his chest rose or anything like that?
I don't recall.
And to your knowledge, was that resuscitation mask functioning properly?
It was.
And these chest compressions, I think we already touched on earlier, that Officer Taylor was giving to the suspect, these would be considered CPR chest compressions.
Yes.
To the best of your understanding, the suspect had been struck by officer's gunfire. Is that accurate?
It's accurate.
Did you have any kind of emergency medical kit on your person at that time?
No, I did not.
And based on your training and experience, first aid CPR, does the training also cover treatment of individuals who are bleeding, such as applying tourniquets, bandages, direct wound pressure, etc.?
Yes.
Based on your knowledge that the suspect had likely been shot, would it have been practical for you to assess for the application of tourniquets, bandages, direct pressure to any apparent gunshot wounds while also conducting CPR?
Yes.
I'm good. Ready?
0434 and 54, Officer Taylor appears to continue giving chest compressions, correct?
That's correct.
Come on, buddy.
043509, a gloved hand appears to feel the suspect's right neck area. Do you recall which officer that was?
No, I don't.
Ready?
At 0435, it's actually 10, Officer Taylor pauses and says 30, correct?
That's correct.
And you kind of motion downward here as the body cam shows. Is this you giving rescue breaths to the suspect?
Yes, it is.
Come on, buddy.
What does 30 mean when that's voiced by Officer Taylor?
Through our training, we're trained to give 30 chest compressions to every 2 breaths.
30 chest compressions?
30 chest compressions. So,
Okay. I'd like to get back to the question I kind of asked you just a little bit earlier about applying tourniquets, bandages, and all that. In your opinion, or based on your training experience, what is the priority of treatment in something like this?
prior to treatment is airway. So getting this individual, since he's not breathing, back to breathing. If there's enough officers on scene, enough medical equipment on scene, and aid can be rendered to multiple areas of the body at once, then you can do so. But the primary function of getting on scene and evaluating an individual is getting their airway back.
Okay. And with doing that, would CPR be that primary way of doing that and trying to get somebody to breathe?
Yes, it would.
Okay. And when I had asked you here about applying tourniquets, bandages, and wound pressure, you said that could have been, you said that would have been practical for you to assess to do that while also doing CPR? You had said yes. Is that?
I apologize. I didn't get the practical part. It wouldn't be practical in this sense with the amount of people we had on scene and with the equipment we had on scene. We didn't have medical bags to treat such injuries. We had the rescue mask, and our main focus was getting this individual breathing again.
Zero 35, 19 seconds. It appears that Officer Taylor continues his chest compressions again, correct?
That's correct.
Let's get back. Fire. Scope. 2 breaths.
So 043539, Officer Taylor pauses and says 30 again, correct?
Correct.
And then you call out fire, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then it sounds like a distant voice replies yes or something in the affirmative, and you reply, let's go.
That's correct.
Can you explain what that exchange was when you had said that?
I heard that fire was on scene and they were working their way back. And I believe they asked, where are they? Or something along those lines. So I called out to fire, he responded, and I told him basically, let's go, you're clear to enter. That was the exchange.
Okay. So I want to kind of clarify. When you're telling fire and medics, let's go, in the way that you did, is that a way of you telling them to hurry or expedite and assisting in treating the suspect here for medical attention?
Yes, it was.
And then right at the very end of this video, I'll replay it here if you want, but Officer Taylor says 2 breaths. Is that, I'll go right back.
30. Fire. Scope. 2 breaths.
So Officer Taylor says 2 breaths, and then you appear to give 2 more rescue breaths here to the suspect. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Just got one.
Yeah.
043546. Someone says what sounds like you guys just got one. Does that sound accurate?
That's what it sounds like.
Go play it again here. Make sure that you...
Just got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's accurate.
Okay. Can you tell who was saying that and what it meant?
It sounds like it was coming from the first fire on scene, and the context is 1 victim, 1 subject down.
And 043547, Officer Taylor appears to continue his chest compressions, correct?
That's correct.
Just got a shirt off, give him on.
Yeah.
043550, someone says something about cutting off the suspect's shirt and getting him on a monitor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell who is saying that?
That was fire.
Yeah.
Okay, you appear to stand up at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Good.
Do we know where he's hit?
Let me back up just a second.
Yeah.
Back up one more time.
Yeah.
Just got a shirt off, give him on.
Yeah.
Are you able to hear what's asked there?
No.
As far as what you reply, yeah?
No, I can't hear.
Okay.
You want to try one more time?
I can, sure. And there's a lot of different voices going at the same time.
Just got a shirt off, give him on.
Yeah.
It sounds like he says something about a shooting,
Okay.
but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Good.
Do we know where he's hit?
Still on the chest. Yeah, he's got it.
Here.
So 043559, several firemen and medics appear to be standing around the suspect, and Officer Taylor at this point appears to stop chest compressions and says, good. Is that correct?
Yes.
Peter, hold your light. I got shears in my pocket there.
Want to take the cuffs off first?
No.
Let me back up.
Good.
Do we know where he's hit?
Still on the chest. Yeah, he's got it.
The medic asks if you or someone knew where the suspect was hit. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Okay. And can you tell what Officer Taylor says in response to them?
Let's do it one more time.
Good.
Do we know where he's hit?
Still on the chest. Yeah, he's got it.
Sounds like he says somewhere in the chest.
And can you hear what's asked at the end of that? chest, and
No, I can't. I'll listen to it one more time.
yeah.
On the chest. Yeah, he's cuffed.
Is he cuffed? Is that what you're looking for?
Is he cuffed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like the medic asks, is he cuffed?
Okay.
Here, Peter, hold your light. I got shears in my pocket.
You want to take the cuffs off first?
No.
Can you tell what Officer Taylor asked there of the medics?
One more time.
Okay.
Here, Peter, hold your light. I got shears in my pocket.
You want to take the cuffs off first?
No.
He asked if he could take the cuffs off first.
Okay. And what was the medic's reply?
No.
No. And cuffs meaning, would those mean handcuffs?
Handcuffs.
Okay. In your opinion, what point did you feel that fire medics took over medical responsibility of the suspect?
Right about this point.
Okay.
Maybe a few moments earlier.
Sorry.
The reason I stood up and backed off is once fire's on scene, they're there. They know they have way more experience with medical treatment than I do. So I'm distancing myself and letting them have the opportunity to take over medical. But right now, when Taylor stands up and backs off, fire is now working on him.
Fire and medics pronounced the suspect deceased, correct?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, the suspect was later identified as Stefan Clark, is that correct?
That's correct.
And for the record, in reviewing body-worn camera footage, approximately 3 minutes total of CPR treatment by SPD officers was conducted on Clark. Does that sound accurate?
It sounds about accurate.
I provided you with General Order 522.02, Emergency Care for Individuals Under Police Care or Control, revision date 5/16/2017. Would you please read aloud the highlighted portions of that?
Policy. It shall be the policy of the Sacramento Police Department to provide emergency medical treatment to individuals under police care or concern while ensuring their safety and that of others during treatment. Emergency medical treatment. Officers having any doubt concerning a person's condition shall request emergency medical assistance. Officers shall provide first aid to injured parties if it can be done safely. Emergency medical authority. The highest level paramedic emergency medical technician, or EMT, on scene is in charge and responsible for the examination, treatment, and transportation of medical parties, or patients, sorry. Law enforcement does not have the authority to order anyone to stop performing cardiac pulmonary resuscitation, or CPR, or to interfere with the paramedics or EMTs. Once CPR has been started on a person, it may be legal to discontinue only when everyone working on the patient is too exhausted to continue, a medical doctor orders everyone to stop, or the person starts breathing.
It's good just to retouch on what you had mentioned there. In your opinion, you felt that fire and medics had taken over responsibility of the suspect on this once you stood up, because the medics who were on scene there, or the fire EMTs that were on scene, had all the more equipment or whatever to treat the suspect on that.
Yes.
Is that correct? Did you know the suspect, Stefan Clark, prior to this incident?
No.
To your knowledge, had you had any kind of interactions or dealings with Stefan Clark prior to this incident?
No.
Fast forward here just to...
Is that his?
I'm assuming. I'm throwing my camera on mute. I don't know where you are.
So it's 04, 40, and 42. You appear to mute your body-worn camera here again, correct?
That's correct.
And what was it you said there when you muted, right before it muted?
Something like, I don't know where you are, or you can replay it if you'd like.
Okay.
I'm throwing my camera on mute. I don't know where you are.
Yeah, I don't know where you are
What did that mean?
in reference of her camera and if it was already on mute or not.
Oh, okay. I understand. Okay. And the reason for you muting your body-worn camera at that point was why?
At this point, there was no more contact with public or the community. I wasn't investigating anything at this point. I was just holding the scene, just standing back there. So I didn't feel the need to keep recording.
So I know it stopped the frame there, but at 04:57 and 16 seconds, you deactivate your body-worn camera. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you recall the reason for it at that time?
Just out of frame, another officer comes back and says, "I'm going to relieve you. Head on out to," and I don't remember who they advised me to go to, but I was directed to go to an individual person. I think it was a sergeant or so. At that point, my investigation was done. I was heading out.
I provided you with General Order 525.07, revision date 4/26/2017, body-worn camera. Would you please read aloud the highlighted portions?
Policy. It shall be the policy of the Sacramento Police Department to utilize a body-worn camera in a manner that will assist in criminal prosecution or civil litigation by providing a recording of the incident that may supplement an employee's report and help document professional police conduct in general. All officers issued a body-worn camera are required to wear and use the body-worn camera while working in uniform. A uniform is to be considered the standard uniform as well as any apparel, e.g. Tactical or raid vests that identify the wearer as a police officer. Body-worn camera video provides additional information regarding an regarding an investigative or enforcement contact with a member of the public. As body-worn cameras recording provides only a limited perspective of the encounter. All other available evidence, such as witness statements, officer interviews, forensic analysis, and documentary evidence, shall be considered before any conclusion are reached. Body-worn cameras should assist in the following: documenting an initial police response. Employees' responsibilities. Employees assigned a body-worn camera shall affix their issued body-worn camera to their uniform at the beginning of their shift in accordance with the training and the manufacturer's guideline. The body-worn camera shall be worn for the entire shift. Required activation of body-worn camera. This policy is not intended to describe every possible situation in which the body-worn camera should be utilized. Not all situations with clearly start out as necessitating the activation of the body-worn camera, nor will all events have a clear ending when the body-worn camera is no longer necessary. Employees should activate their body-worn camera during an enforcement or investigative activity, whether self-initiated or in response to a dispatch call. Examples include, but are not limited to, the following: when contacting pedestrians and vehicle contacts, while responding to any in progress, just occurred, or any other call for service in which the fleeing suspect and or vehicle may be captured leaving the crime scene, when responding to a call reportedly involving weapons or violence, when pursuing a suspect on foot during a Code 3 response, including vehicle pursuits, regardless of whether the vehicle is equipped with an in-car camera system, while executing searches or individuals, vehicles, buildings, and other places, when conducting arrests, detentions, and or citations. Deactivation of body-worn camera. Except as listed below, once activated, officers shall not deactivate their body-worn cameras until the investigation or enforcement action involving a member of the public has reasonably concluded. If enforcement or investigation activities with a member of the public resume, the officer shall reactivate body-worn camera and continue recording. Employees may deactivate the body-worn camera at any time based on their discretion in the following circumstances. When the employee is discussing tactical or confidential information with other law enforcement personnel, during briefings, or during conversations with confidential information. When it is necessary to discuss issues or concerns with an employee, supervisor, doctor, nurse, or paramedic in private. Details regarding the reason for deactivation should be recorded and documented when appropriate.
After reviewing that, in your opinion, do you feel that you complied with that policy?
I do.
Can you give some reasons why?
I activated my body-worn camera at the initial point when we were rolling code 3 to the call. So our in-car camera was on, but I also activated my body-worn camera. During this revision, or when I arrived on scene, I made contact with Officer Robinette and Officer Mercadal. We muted our cameras to discuss a private conversation of their safety. I reactivated my body-worn camera and continued into the backyard, where I made contact with Stephon Clark, who had been shot. Once fire had pronounced, Stephon Clark had passed, and we had searched the area for additional bullets, holes. At that point, my investigation was complete. I was just holding the scene, so I muted my camera. I stood in the backyard until I was relieved, which at that point my investigation was complete and the end of the call, so I turned my camera off.
If you were to respond to this call again, is there anything that you would have done differently?
No, not that I can think of.
Detective Alonzo?
I don't have anything.
Mick? No, sir. No? Okay.
Okay, is there anything else relating to this matter which we have not covered that needs to be added, clarified, or changed? If so, I'm ordering you to provide that information now.
No.
After you leave this interview, should you remember anything that is different from or in addition to the information that you've given today, I'm ordering you to contact me immediately. I'm also ordering you not to discuss this matter with any other department employee. Do you understand this orders?
I do.
Time is 15:48 hours.